The last arc of Quintessential Quintuplets Season 1 had one of the best writing moments I've seen in a romance anime. Let's dive in. Here's a brief recap of the events. Fuutaro and Ichika get locked in a room together, and because the sprinklers turned on, Ichika got sick. As a result, she can't go skiing, but she sneaks out anyway and goes skiing with the group. Then a problem appears. Itsuki is missing, and the main characters think she's in danger since there was a forbidden danger zone they were told not to go to. Finally, Fuutaro solves the problem by deducing that Itsuki has been disguised as Ichika the whole day. Let's unpack this. The first element that makes this problem solving good is the use of a unique trait from the story. The five sisters all being identical has been established since the start of the show. There have been multiple times in the past where they disguise themselves as each other or confused others in general. The story reusing this idea is a callback that rewards the viewer for paying attention, and it makes the plot stand out from others because no romance anime can create the same problem unless it has identical siblings. There's connective tissue in the plot and a maximization of unique traits in the story. The second element is the unique problem based on the unique trait. Someone missing during a skiing trip due to going to a dangerous area isn't new in romance. Toradora did the same thing, but the way gotoubun handles it is unique. They set up the red herring of the danger zone, providing a possible answer as to where Itsuki could be, but the actual answer was that one of the sisters was using the identical disguise to pose as another. A plot can effectively be broken down into problems and solutions. In this video, I am analyzing the quality of the plot using atomic engineering measurements such as goal, problem, solution, and result. This type of analysis can be applied to nearly any genre and provides effective results. The third element is how the plot web made way for this problem. Ichika got doused with sprinklers. As a result, she got sick and had to stay in bed. This provided Itsuki with the opportunity to pose as her sister and tell the others that Itsuki was off skiing somewhere else. The problem she created wouldn't have existed without the prior events. The way the results and problems are connected creates this falling dominoes effect where everything in the plot is the result of something before in the plot. This makes the story well thought out and cleverly connected. The fourth element is the reason behind the problem and the solution. Itsuki has always been suspicious of Fuutaro, being one of the last two sisters to trust him, so when Ichika starts viewing him romantically, she doesn't really approve. This test, which was facilitated by the plot web, was her way of testing Futaro's love for the sisters. Symbolically, if he passed the test, it would prove that he loved them. If he didn't, it might prove that he didn't love them. Fuutaro passed the test, which allowed Itsuki to give her approval. So a fifth element would be how the problem was directly romance related, tying it to its genre. The sixth element would be that it resolved a season-long conflict of Ichika not trusting Fuutaro. To me, this is like the romance version of a hero completing their arc, thus allowing them to save the day. Think Luke trusting in the Force, allowing him to destroy the Death Star, Neo believing he's the one, allowing him to beat the agents, Puss in Boots valuing his own life, allowing him to beat death. But this is a step further, because in the examples I named, simply completing the internal development gave them the ability to win externally. Here, the way Fuutaro solves the problem also tactically makes sense. He couldn't tell them apart visually, but he picked up on subtle differences in their behavior. Specifically, Ichika calls him by his first name, and Itsuki calls him by his last name. While they were skiing earlier, Ichika called him by his last name instead of his first, which was the clue that he needed. He gets further proof by testing Itsuki's bad eyesight on the gondola, something Ichika doesn't have. So his victory makes sense internally and externally. This is more in line with the battle manga example, where the character development and the external logic of the win are both good, rather than just the external win being due to the internal win. A simple example would be Naruto and the written test. It was designed to test espionage and endurance. Naruto's grand speech proved that he had the endurance, but he also luckily took advantage of the rules, which was that you only lose points for writing a wrong answer. He wrote nothing, so he passed. If I wanted to take it a step further, I could say that this was a thematic conflict, and thus a symbiotic plot, specifically the debate diagram. That would be element 7. The backstory is that Itsuki's dad was unreliable. Her belief was that you can't just trust any man with love. Her choice is to pretend to be Ichika to see if Fuutaro knows the difference. The problem is that it seems that Itsuki is missing. Ichika believes that Fuutaro is trustworthy and loves them. Fuutaro being able to solve the mystery is the climactic solution that proves Ichika right. It's beautiful. There's only one issue I have, and it's the plot hole that this creates. From a season 1 perspective, the question is how the sisters weren't able to tell each other apart. I believe this is the only time they're unable to. They usually can tell the difference by appearance alone, so Fuutaro being the one to solve the problem is strange. This could easily be patched up by all the sisters being in on the plan. But the second problem is more of an issue. From a season 2 perspective, this makes even less sense because there's a whole arc about Fuutaro training to learn the difference between them. The grandfather says that the secret is love. In the end, he notices subtle differences in behavior. This is the exact same thing that happened at the end of season 1. How did he gain the ability to identify them in the first season and then lose it in the second? The only way I could patch this up is with maybe a fall. Maybe Fuutaro stops being in love with them for some reason, and he loses the ability to identify them. Kinda like Spider-Man losing his powers when Peter no longer wants to be Spider-Man. Despite this plot hole, I still love this plot cycle. It's my favorite in recent memory alongside Rascal Does Not Dream's first arc. In conclusion, the reason this plot cycle is so good is because of his clever use of unique elements to create a unique problem, his deeply woven plot web that made this problem possible, his resolution to a season-long conflict, his connection to his genre, the character development that it facilitated, the clever solution to the problem, and the symbiotic plot wrapping it all up. Off the top of my head, I can't name another plot cycle as well written as this in a romance anime. Subscribe for more academic analysis on writing.